Christ, Miquella.
Hello guys, today we're going to talk about the Lord of Blood, Mohg, a visionary or a lunatic? Let's find out. Morgott and Mogh are Omen demigods born from the union of Queen Marika and Godfrey, which makes them brothers to Godwyn the Golden. Unfortunately, they were born cursed, afflicted with Omen's blood. In the lands between, the Omens are spared by the Golden Order. Low-born babies born with horns sprouting from their bodies usually have their horns excised, causing most to perish. The ones who survive are usually killed on the spot or enslaved by the Order. As we can see in-game, the cursed blood carries ample power, and even rejects when carrying such power can be useful in battle. This should have been the fate of our dear twins, yet they were royalty. Cursed, yes, but still royalty. And so they were hidden under the capital, and not a single horn was touched. Royal Omen bearing reads, Omen babies born of royalty do not have their horns excised, but instead are kept underground, unbeknownst to anyone, imprisoned for eternity. Shackles imbued with power were specifically made for Mogh and Morgott to hold them in place. An escape to the surface would have probably been impossible for mere children, but let's not forget, they carried the blood of Godfrey and Marika within them, and so all precautions were taken, all to prevent the shameful hypocrisy of the Order to be known by the people. Their only fault was to be born that way. Why are we in chains? Why are we cursed? What did we do to deserve this? They must have thought. Morgott's answer was his blood. He hated the way that he was born and grew up to despise himself to the point of being ashamed of what he was. Mogh's answer would have been different. You see, Mogh found something within the darkness, something he never knew. A mother. That day his accursed blood erupted with fire. Time passed and eventually they would both break free from the shackles placed on them. Morgott rose to the surface, rejecting his blood and sealing it away, becoming the veiled monarch. Mogh would descend deeper underground. The mother that he found that day was an outer god, the formless mother. That day she bestowed power upon his accursed blood, and as we all know, power precedes ambition. It would establish a new dynasty in her name, a new bloody order to wash away the Golden One that rejected him. This is the story of Mogh, the Lord of Blood. Our journey to unveil the mystery that is Mogh starts from Varre, a well-spoken figure dressed in white, who seems willing to offer us advice. After the first introductions, we can talk to him again, once we defeat Morgott the Fell Omen at Stormveil Castle, where he will advise us to earn a seat at the round table oath, suggesting we might get some benefits out of it.
Oh, well done. Well done indeed. You made it through that entire mess all the way to Stormveil. And off you trotted to the round table hold. My sincerest congratulations. But how did you find the round table? Oh, you don't have to say it. Before, the round table was chock full of venerated warriors. But now, it's home to puff chests and has-beens. I fear you've been terribly disappointed. I don't blame you. But still, the round table has its perks. Why not earn a seat? Fly straight and true, so to speak.
So far, Varre has been an incredible source of information, knowing well of the inner workings of the Round Table and where to guide us. After we defeat Godric the Grafted and we are granted audience with the Two Fingers, we can meet him again at Rose Church in Leonia, where he will lead us to question the past of the Two Fingers. If we share our doubts on the Two Fingers, stating they didn't seem right, he gave us a present.
Ah, there you are. You've had your audience with the two fingers at the round table hold. What was your impression? Aha, your intuition serves you well. My doubts had been piling up, you see. The words of the two fingers cannot be trusted. Truly, naught but rambling, senile delusions. I believe that when the Elden Ring was shattered, the two fingers were corrupted, their guidance skewed. Even worse, the fingers harbor no love for our kind. That's the part that irks the most. Oh, I have a gift for you, something fit only for the wise. A means for circumventing the draw of the two fingers. Give it a try, won't you? And if it please you, may we meet again. I've high hopes for you, my lambkin.
Varre requests from us to use the festering bloody fingers he gave us. Once we checked the item description, we realized that the item is for invading and hunting down our fellow tarnished. A bit of a strange request, but so far we never had a reason to doubt his words, so we agreed to his little scheme and set off. Once the deed is done and we return, he reveals the truth to us and offers us to serve as a knight for Luminary Mogh, the Lord of Blood, in the new upcoming dynasty. But for that to happen, we need to overcome one more trial to taint a strap of white cloth with maiden's blood.
Oh, lambkin, so pleased you're here. I'm glad that you're enjoying my gift. I knew it from the very start. You have a taste for noble blood. I wish to anoint you a proper inductee, a knight to serve Luminary Mohg, the Lord of Blood, and establish a new dynasty. Luminary Mohg has strength, vision, and of course, love. So, what do you say, my lambkin? Yes. Who would have it any other way? Now, take this for your final trial. Soak the cloth with a maiden's blood. Normally, this ritual would involve killing one's own maiden and recanting the wisdom of the two fingers. But since you are maidenless, the blood of anyone's maiden will do.
As stated by Varre, in the past this ritual was done by killing one's own maiden. The ritual was probably designed this way to test the conviction of the ones undertaking it, and to cut any ties to the two fingers. These days, probably due to the ritual itself, many tarnished found themselves maidenless, due to the maidens being the primary target of this entire ordeal. Probably even our own maiden, who I believe is the one we find dead in the Chapel of Anticipation, was killed due to this ritual. Having reached this point, we push forward, and we hunt down our final victim. After we find and kill our target, we can finally tinge the cloth in blood, and return to Varre. Lord of Blood's favor reads, "The final trial is complete. Luminary Mogh is sure to welcome you into his service, as a knight who will lay the foundations for his dynasty."
Ah, my lambkin. You've completed your final trial. And with this, you are a formal inductee. A knight who will assist Luminary Mohg, the Lord of Blood, in the establishment of a new dynasty. Now, give me your finger. This noble blood will be an immutable badge of honor once it settles inside of you. Oh, good heavens. Clench your teeth or something. Never forget that feeling of agony, for it is what binds you to Luminary Mohg, to all of us. You have the sweetest scream, my lambkin. Oh, another thing. You should have this. A medal granted by the new Mohgwyn dynasty, with the power to grant audience with Luminary Mohg. I've gone out of my way to provide one to you. But you mustn't use it just yet. The meeting must wait until the Mohgwyn dynasty commences. Luminary Mohg yet slumbers beside the divinity. We must endure a little longer.
There is a lot to unpack here. First of all, Luminary Mogh. A luminary is a person who inspires or influences others. And from what we can learn from Varre, it seems his disciples follow his ideals as well. You see, Varre never tried to force us in this situation. He guided and seduced us every step of the way without imposing his will. We also learn from Varre that Mogh, the Lord of Blood, wishes to found a new dynasty called Mohgwyn. I'll get into the name and explain why it's important later. Let us turn our attention to what Varre has left us with. The Pure Blood Knight's medal reads, "Prove that one is a glorious knight of the new dynasty of Mohgwyn, that the Lord of Blood will inaugurate. Used to be granted an audience with Mogh, only it is not time yet, for Mogh yet slumbers beside the divinity. Be patient, the new dynasty is nigh. As the medal suggests, it's not time yet, so for now we shall wait." The second item is the bloody finger, which is not an item but an actual part of our being. In the item's image, the finger doesn't appear to be cut off like the festering bloody fingers. It actually belongs to our hand. Bloody finger reads, "Glistening blood has been siphoned into the nail of this finger. Its sickly pale skin feels nothing now, but the nail still aches with the sweetest pain. One look in the mirror and we can see the reality of what happened to us. During the painful ritual, Varre held our hand and injected our fingernail with what he calls noble blood. And noble blood seems powerful indeed, enough to alter the color of our eyes. As our journey proceeds through Altus Plateau, we are attacked by Eleonora, the Violet Bloody Finger, at the second church of Marika. Once defeated, she leaves the following item, Purifying Crystal Tear, which reads, "A crystal tear formed slowly over the age, where the earth tree's bounty falls to the ground, can be mixed in the flask of wondrous physics. The resulting concoction purifies the curse from Mogh, Lord of Blood, terrifying Rite of Blood. It seems not all knights are following blindly Luminary Mogh." We eventually find more information in the Shining Grounds beneath the capital of Lindel. This place became the home of Morgott and Mogh when they were children, where they were imprisoned for no other crime than being born the way they were. Bound by shackles of gold under the strictest confinement, it makes you think of the cruelty they had to endure from their own family. We gain a little bit of insight on Mogh's childhood from the cursed blood pot, which reads, "Decorated with the crest of the Lord of Blood, throw at enemies to dose them in accursed blood, causing summoned spirits to assail them with rabid fervor, a childhood memory of the Lord of Blood." Knowing this, we can better understand the pain the twins must have felt growing up, and all Mogh felt when he stood before the formless mother deep underground. Blood Boon incantation reads, "The Mother of Truth craves wounds." When Mogh stood before her deep underground, his accursed blood erupted with fire, and so he was infatuated with the defilement he was born into. Thanks to the outer god that day, Mogh became proud of what he was. In the Shunning grounds, we can find a projection of Luminary Mogh. I feel the placement here is not a coincidence. My speculation is that the Phantom of Mogh is placed here to defend the underground chapel, which we can presume is the first place where he got in contact with the Formless Mother, or that he's actually here to guard the door hidden behind the altar, the one that leads to the Three Fingers, which would make him have at least one goal in common with his fellow Omen brother, since once he's defeated, we can find also Morgott's seal preventing us from entering. It makes sense, as if the Three Fingers are released and a new Lord of Chaos is chosen, the world would burn away, preventing the dynasty of Mohgwyn ever to rise. Having reached this point, we decide to use the Pure Blood Knight's medal to have an audience with our Lord. Once the item is used, we are teleported directly to the entrance of Mohgwyn Palace. The other way of accessing this area is by using the Waygate teleporter located in the consecrated snowfields. Interesting fact, if you pay attention, you can spot red flowers growing close to the Waygate, and if you decide to follow them, the flowers will lead all the way to Ordina Liturgical Town, possibly showing us the path that Mogh took when traveling to Miquella's Alec Tree. We can speculate that the teleporter itself was placed here by Mogh in order to quickly return to his palace once he had completed his abhorrent deed. But now, let us return to the Mohgwyn Palace. There is a lot to unpack here. Soon after accessing the staircase to the Mohgwyn Dynasty Mausoleum, we can find the Mohgwyn Palace map, which reads, "In the lightless depth lies the grave of ancient civilization. It is here that Mogh, the Lord of Blood, is building his palace to be the seat of his coming dynasty named Mohgwyn, and whatever nightmares that may bring." Traveling through the swamp, we realize how the cursed blood is able to change the environment. Something similar can be observed in Rose Church and at the Second Church of Marika, locations deeply connected to Bloody Finger's activity. However, never on this scale. Lakes of blood surround the entire area, and it seems the blood is affecting the animals living there as well, like the giant crows and the dogs, which have bloody blisters growing all over their bodies. Even the insects, which are said to spawn from the animals' excrements, show signs of corruption. Within the bloody marshlands, we can also find Albinorics patrolling the area, probably foot soldiers or servants to the upcoming dynasty of Mohgwyn. It is no surprise that a displaced and oppressed group of people, such as the Albinorics, found a place within the upcoming dynasty. After all, as mentioned before, Mogh promised love to his subjects. Likely due to the fact that the Albinorics are artificial beings created by human hands, they are more easily influenced by the cursed blood found in the area. The red Albinorics seem to have adapted perfectly to the environment, weaponizing their blood by creating and shooting blood spikes. We can also observe little Omen horns growing on their heads. The sanguine nobles seem to have been infected by the blood of the Lord as well, sporting interesting abilities like moving through blood. We can notice more pronounced horns growing on their bodies. It seems the nobles are undergoing a process to become pseudo-Omens, proving they all been infected by Mogh's Omen blood. I like to add a personal thought. It seems Mogh is pleased sharing this gift of blood. As stated before, the upcoming dynasty is one of love. There is irony in this though. He seems bent will on transforming his followers into Omens so they can all bask in the greatness of his noble blood, though he doesn't have a single natural Omen serving him. This is why I love the twins. They are so human compared to other characters. It seems the years of imprisonment affected them deeply. Morgott hates anything related to Omens, even himself because of his blood, while Mogh hates all of the Omens except himself, probably seeing them beneath him. From his perspective, if the other Omens were special, of course his mother would have communed with them as well. It's a pity. Mogh could have become a symbol for the oppressed Omens, uniting all of them under a single banner. At that point, it would have been unstoppable. Imagine an army of them marching through the lands between. With years of rage for the constant abuse they had to endure, they would have destroyed any opposition. Anyway, I digress. There is one last thing we can do before meeting Mogh. At the mausoleum, we have the option to invade Varre, the one who set us up upon this journey. During the Shattering, Varre was a war surgeon, and like all other field surgeons, he was effectively a mercy killer, seemingly finding pleasure in his acts. For mercy is a catalyst for bloodlust. By reading his armor, we learned that many surgeons were abducted by the Lord of Blood, but none were able to tame the cursed blood, none but Varre, that is, though he was an exception. This shows us that Mogh wished to control his blood and to use it in his upcoming dynasty. Therefore, it makes sense to use surgeons, as they had plenty of medical knowledge, including the subject of blood. This also ties Mogh to the Shattering. While the other demigods were out there warring, he was stalking the battlefields, kidnapping surgeons. It also underlined the fact that Mogh wasn't preoccupied to interfere with the war itself. He knew he was going to be the last one standing in the long run, which shows a newfound pride in his character. Finally, we can meet our Lord and discover the secret behind the dynasty. The first thing that we see when we approach him is an arm emerging from a cocoon. The arm, which looks sickly pale and elderly, seems to be pointing upwards at first. Suddenly, blood begins to emerge from the cocoon, flowing off the arm itself. The arm collapses and blood begins to drip from the middle finger, pooling on the floor beneath it. Mogh, Lord of Blood, emerges from it. Although he doesn't acknowledge our presence at first, instead turning to the end, kneeling in front of it and holding it gently.
Dearest Miquella, you must abide alone a while. Welcome, honored guest, to the birthplace of our dynasty.
It is here that we discover Mogh's secret and unveil the dynasty's divinity's true identity, Miquella the Unalloyed. Miquella is a demigod born cursed with eternal youth. Is the twin brother to Malenia, who was born afflicted by scarlet rot. Likely due to their affliction as they grew up, they bonded closely together, coming to care deeply about each other. Later in life, Miquella and Malenia would be both chosen as Empyreans by their own two fingers, as candidates to succeed Queen Marika the Eternal as the new god of this world. Though Miquella would abandon the Golden Order, as he had little faith that the Order could do anything for his sister's rot. We learn as much from Radagon's Rings of Light incantation, which reads, "One of the incantations of the Golden Order, a gift of gratitude to the young Miquella from his father, and yet the young Miquella abandoned fundamentalism, for it could do nothing to treat Malenia's accursed rot. This was the beginning of unalloyed gold." When Miquella left, he took with him a little sapling, the earth tree's offspring to create a new earth tree. Once the tree was mature enough, Miquella would embed himself inside of it to allow himself to ascend to full godhood, and to find a cure for his dear sister, Malenia. But before he could grow to his full potential, Miquella was abducted away in his cocoon form by his stepbrother Mohg. Mogh wished to raise Miquella as the new god of blood and to become his consort. Miquella possessed the wisdom, the allure of a god, making him the most fearsome Imperium of all, which would make the perfect candidate for the Formless Mother, who wished to usurp the greater will as the ruling god of the lands between. The outer god wished for Miquella to become her vassal god, and for him to usurp Marika, taking Mogh as a consort and making him a lord. As stated in the Remembrance of the Lord of Blood, which reads, wishing to raise Miquella to full godhood, Mogh wished to become his consort, taking the role of monarch, but no matter how much of his bloody bedchamber he tried to share, he received no response from the young Empyrean. We can ascertain for ourselves that the description from the Remembrance is quite literal, as when we enter Miquella's chamber, Mogh is actually inside of the cocoon with the young Empyrean, covering Miquella in liquid form as a cursed blood. As shown by the sanguine nobles, those who share Mogh's blood gain the ability to transcend their corporeal form and are able to turn into blood. This way, Mogh could share his bedchamber with Miquella. However, unfortunately for Mogh, he would always be denied an answer by the sleeping Empyrean. Mogh would be relentless in his onslaught, channeling the power of his great throne in his every attack, thrusting his arm into the body of the Formless Mother, setting the area ablaze. Miquella is mine, and mine alone, the Lord of Blood declared. Mogh, desperate to repel us, would eventually commune with the Formless Mother by raising his sphere and striking her body 3 times. By using the purifying crystal, we can survive the Lord of Blood terrifying rite of blood. Once the rite is complete, the outer god concedes Mogh's request by granting him strength. As majestic black wings emerge from his back, Mogh takes flight, resolute in stopping us, but for all of his might, he would still fall by our hand. Alas, all of his strength wasn't enough to stop us. Mogh's efforts weren't enough to receive an answer from Miquella. Or were they? You see, there is one small detail that is easy to miss. When we first enter Miquella's chamber, his arm is not covered with blood. The blood that emerges from the cocoon belongs entirely to Mogh's disembodied form, as he would never dream to hurt his precious divinity. It is my speculation that Mogh left part of his being on Miquella as a last attempt to further his plan, to make sure that even after his death, Miquella would still be corrupted by his accursed blood and would rise as a god of blood. For he never doubted that his dynasty would rise along with his god. Finally, here, at the end of the journey, we can decipher what Mohgwyn means. Gwyn in Welsh means blessed, so we can presume that Mohgwyn meant blessed by Mogh, or the blessed people of Mogh. Growing up alone in chains, Mogh wanted nothing more than to have people surrounding him, and in a sad, twisted way, his dynasty was supposed to be a group of people blessed by his blood. Thanks to the outer god he met underground, he found pride in what his family considered cursed. He never knew any better, unfortunately, and became a monster foremost. But as history teaches us, the worst monsters are the ones that we create, and while Mogh's story might have ended, that of his dynasty still lives, as Miquella yet slumbers, and one day it will surely awake to bless us all.
Well, I wonder what comes next. If he continues his slumber within the cocoon, all would be well. But perhaps it would be safer to destroy it. Miquella is the one thing that remains a mystery to me.
This is it for this video. If you made it till the end of the video, thank you. Anyways, as always, like, share, subscribe. Any support is really appreciated. And well, see you on the next one. Ciao.